The San Francisco 49ers enter this offseason in a fascinating position, caught between a roster that has contended for years and the harsh reality that the window never stays open forever in the NFL. This is a team that has built its identity on physical dominance, creative offense, and defensive playmakers, yet the closing stretch of last season exposed cracks that can no longer be ignored. Injuries, depth concerns, and inconsistency at key positions have forced the front office to confront difficult decisions about the future. The biggest question hovering over the organization right now is not just how to remain competitive, but how to reload without tearing down the foundation that made them a powerhouse in the first place. At the center of the conversation is quarterback depth, specifically the future of Mac Jones as the primary backup to Brock Purdy. Jones proved invaluable when called upon, stabilizing the offense and giving the coaching staff confidence that the system could still function if disaster struck. But the NFL is a league that rewards timing, and his value may never be higher than it is at this exact moment. A proposed trade scenario with the Minnesota Vikings illustrates the dilemma perfectly. Turning a backup quarterback on an affordable contract into premium draft capital could accelerate a roster retool in a way that few other moves could. It is the type of calculated gamble that championship organizations often make, prioritizing long-term flexibility over short-term security. The appeal of that potential deal goes beyond simply acquiring picks. A second-round selection would give San Francisco ammunition to address multiple needs, whether that means drafting an immediate contributor, packaging picks to move up the board, or even trading for a proven veteran. Conditional future selections add another layer of intrigue, essentially allowing the 49ers to benefit if Jones thrives elsewhere. It is a hedge against regret, a recognition that player development is rarely linear. Yet trading him would also introduce risk. The memory of past seasons derailed by quarterback injuries still lingers inside the building, and relying on an unproven backup could undo months of careful planning in a single moment. This is where the strategic vision of head coach Kyle Shanahan and general manager John Lynch becomes critical. Their partnership has consistently emphasized roster balance, depth in the trenches, and versatility on both sides of the ball. If they believe the roster has too many holes to ignore, flipping a luxury asset like a high-end backup quarterback makes sense. But if they see this team as one or two moves away from another Super Bowl run, stability at the most important position in sports might outweigh the temptation of extra draft picks. While quarterback discussions dominate headlines, the offensive roster faces equally pressing questions. Speed at wide receiver has become a glaring need, particularly as the offense struggled to generate explosive plays late in the year. The offensive line also requires reinforcement, both to protect the quarterback and to reestablish the dominant run game that has defined this system. Injuries to key skill players exposed a lack of depth that contenders simply cannot afford. Every personnel decision this spring will ripple through the offensive identity, determining whether the unit returns to being a nightmare for defensive coordinators or continues to show vulnerability. Defensively, the conversation starts with the pass rush, a unit that once terrorized opposing quarterbacks but has recently lacked consistent production. The idea of pursuing edge rusher Joey Bosa is as intriguing as it is symbolic. Pairing him with his brother, Nick Bosa, would instantly create one of the most recognizable defensive duos in football, but this move would be about far more than marketing appeal. Joey's ability to generate pressure, force turnovers, and set the edge against the run addresses multiple weaknesses at once. Durability concerns remain, yet his recent resurgence suggests there is still elite football left in his game. For a team seeking certainty on the defensive line, that upside may be too tempting to ignore. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the 49ers off-season chess match, now is the perfect time to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the moves made in the coming weeks will shape the NFC landscape, and you will not want to miss the analysis as it happens. The defensive line conversation does not end with veteran acquisitions. Recent draft investments in young linemen signal a commitment to building a deep rotation capable of overwhelming opponents over 4 quarters. Mock drafts projecting another interior force heading to San Francisco reinforce that philosophy. The modern NFL has shown repeatedly that waves of defensive linemen win championships, allowing teams to maintain pressure without exhausting their stars. Adding another massive presence in the middle could transform run defense from a weakness into a strength while creating favorable matchups for edge rushers on passing downs. Meanwhile, the secondary and safety positions remain areas of concern, particularly against increasingly sophisticated passing attacks across the conference. Speed and range on the back end are no longer luxuries. They are necessities. The front office must decide whether to address these needs through the draft, free agency, or a combination of both. Every dollar spent and every pick used represents an opportunity cost, making prioritization one of the most difficult aspects of roster construction. Even the salary cap enters the equation, with potential restructures and releases looming for veterans who underperformed relative to their contracts. Tough financial decisions are often the hidden engine of championship cycles, quietly determining which teams sustain success and which fade into mediocrity. Restructuring deals could preserve continuity while freeing resources for targeted additions, but it also pushes financial burdens into future seasons. The balance between present competitiveness and long-term health is a constant tightrope walk. Then there are the wildcard scenarios that emerge every offseason, including speculation about star players potentially changing teams. The mere possibility of acquiring a dominant defender like Max Crosby ignites the imagination of fans and analysts alike. A relentless pass rusher with a reputation for motor and intensity, Crosby represents the type of game-changing presence that can alter playoff matchups. Acquiring such a player would require significant assets and careful cap management, but it would also signal an aggressive push to capitalize on the current championship window. Ultimately, this offseason will test the organizational philosophy that has defined the 49ers for years. Do they double down on the core that has brought them so close to a title, or do they pivot toward a younger, more flexible roster designed for sustained success? The answer likely lies somewhere in between, a calculated blend of bold moves and disciplined restraint. What is certain is that standing still is not an option in a conference filled with ascending contenders. As the countdown to free agency continues, every rumor, every report, and every social media hint will be dissected for clues about the direction of the franchise. This is the drama of the NFL offseason, where championships are often shaped long before the first kickoff of September. For the 49ers, the coming months represent both a challenge and an opportunity to redefine their trajectory. If you want complete coverage of every signing, trade, draft pick, and strategic shift as this story unfolds, make sure you subscribe and stay locked in, because this offseason could determine whether the 49ers return to the Super Bowl stage or face the difficult reality of a closing window.